You are now watching the amazing Mets pregame show with your hosts, Rob and CP.
Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets!
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the amazing Mets pregame show right here on both of our channels and on X. And Mets fans, take a deep breath. It was only one game. This is the first series that we have to deal with where one game is not a swing game in a 7-game series. There's a lot more baseball to go. And we got our Ace on the mound today. Again, that's not a stamp of a win, but that should breathe out and spill out a little bit more confidence for a team that has proven to bounce back in this postseason after tough losses. So take a deep breath. Let's get this game and head back to Queens 1-1. And it starts with the amazing Mets pregame show right here today. Chris, how are you doing today? Uh-oh. Hold on, Chris. Something's going on. I don't hear you. Uh-oh.
I had myself muted. Can you hear me?
Oh, yep, you're good now.
I said there's no other place that I would rather be. And obviously, I'm just absolutely fumbling the bag right now, right at the top of the show. So I apologize about that. But there's no other place I'd rather be talking Mets baseball with you and the chat than right here, right now. Yesterday, I want to wipe it clean from my memory bank. We obviously went into the post game. We talked about the Senga decision. It was a rather animated discussion that I think was really important for us to have. I think it was really important, but you know what? That's behind us. It's a new day. You're absolutely right. Our ace is on the mound. And more than just that is that this offense has to figure out how to get through to the Dodgers bullpen. So I'm excited. Again, scared money don't make any money, Rob. You know that. The Mets know that. We all know that, right? And each time the Mets have been knocked down and pushed down throughout this entire season, unlike seasons past, they've gotten right back up. So I'm looking forward to first pitch, man. I wish that we were 30 minutes away instead of an hour and 30 minutes away. That's kind of where my mindset, my mentality is at right now.
Yeah, I think you have to put it out of your mind now. And you know what? This team has done a great job with bad losses, and this was our first beatdown of the postseason. And I don't think it's going to make it worse for us or make us feel like this team is done it by any means. I know the national media, the betting odds, so to speak, are big favorites for the Dodgers and basically saying that the Mets are done. So I guess they haven't watched the postseason. But again, regardless of how you felt about yesterday, me, you, the chat, other Mets fans, about who started yesterday and how they performed, it was a total team effort. And that loss was a total team loss. And, the lineup didn't help the cause. The pitching didn't help the offense. The offense didn't help the pitching. So, this was a game that, nothing went right yesterday. And you have to brush it off quickly. And look, the opportunity is still there for us. The whole goal of the first 2 games on the road in the postseason, especially in a 7-game series, is to win one of those 2 games. That is the goal, regardless of how it happens. And Chris, you talked about the recency bias in the postgame yesterday as the Philadelphia series, the Mets won game 1, lost game 2, and Mets fans act like the series was over, but if it was in reverse, you would have felt a hell of a lot better going back home. Well, the Mets have an opportunity to win game 2, and everybody would feel a hell of a lot better after game 2 if you win it going back home. So the recency bias is there. Doesn't matter how you get there to game 3. As long as you get there 1-1, you should be in pretty good shape because you'll be back having home field advantage. And now you get the next 3 games at home tying the series. So you can look at it in many different ways, but here's a fact. You got your ace on the mound today, right? Your ace is supposed to be the quote-unquote stopper on the mound today for your team. And that's what he has to be. He has to be good. He has to be really good. You just hope that with the 47 bullpen arms that the Dodgers are going to throw today, that the Mets can hit them. Because that is not easy to do, as you've seen them do it against the Padres and shutting them out. And the Mets, what are they I think the Dodgers will have 33 straight innings of scoreless baseball. So, now it's more going to be talked about on the broadcast after every inning the Mets don't score, right? The pressure is going to mount every time they don't score. But you know what they need to do? They need to put some pressure on the pitcher, right? Let Roberts make the mistake. Because yesterday it was an easy game for him. He didn't have to make any move. He didn't have to make a big decision because Flaherty made it for him, right? Let him use his bullpen the way he does not want to, right? Let him take out a pitcher that he didn't want to take out earlier. That's how you use a tremendous amount of bullpen. And if you win today, and we talked about this, Chris, because it's a 7-game series, there's probably going to be at least 2 bullpen games. And what you're doing, at least today, because it's a bullpen game, get to these guys. Let them use as many pitches as possible because it's only going to hurt game 3, game 4, and possibly so on and in the future. So that's what I think the Mets have to do today. They can't lose this game. Is the series over if they do? No. But it's going to be a hell of a lot harder to win 4 out of the next 5 games. And that's the issue that they're going to have. But it's not over, but it'll be a hell of a lot harder when you got Buehler and Yamamoto in the next couple of games. So they got to find a way to win today. And I think we need to give this team a little bit of credit for what they've done in the postseason so far. Again, the recency bias is real, but they've proven it that they can bounce back after a bad loss. And we'll see if they can do that today.
Yeah, and just like we talked about, maybe do it in reverse order of the NLDS, right? Where you took game 1 and now you lost game 1. Just bounce back, right? And you still got to be even keel if you win this game. Yes, we're going to be ecstatic, but again, recency bias works both ways in that you can't forget what lost you game 1, right? In terms of any sort of decision making from the top down, the performance of Senga, everything else. So you got to keep an even keel and just remember those at bats. Have them in the back of your head and just try to replicate something different because whatever the Mets bats were doing last night was clearly not working. Jack Flaherty had a breeze of a game, but I agree with you. It starts with Sean Manaea today, right? I believe people are already pointing out in the chat that Sean Manaea has not fared well in his career against the Dodgers. A lot of that ERA and a lot of those starts or appearances were inflated back in 2022 when he was a San Diego Padre. He actually did pitch against the Dodgers, earlier this year on April 19th, where he only gave up 2 earned runs over 5+ innings pitched, which is a good sign. Hopefully he's able to replicate that. But again, I have the confidence in Sean Manaea. If you're not confident in Sean Manaea, like who on this staff are you going to be, comfortable with, right? Who are you going to be confident in? Maybe minus Jose Quintana, who's just on an absolute heater right now since the month of September started. But you know what? I think the formula is simple, right? Just don't do what you did last night. But no, I agree with you 100%. In terms of Sean Manaea, we know it works well for him, right? He's going to try to establish that sinker, maybe up in the zone. Again, the way that you have to attack this Dodgers lineup is it could be a lot different, right? It could be a lot different than all the other teams that you've seen before. They're a well-balanced lineup. And I think top to bottom at this point, we can no longer say that they're just top heavy, right? They have a well-balanced lineup 1 through 9. It's full of lefties. You're going to get the lefty-righty switch. And you're just going to have to navigate that. Get the sweeper over. The one thing that you just can't do, and what Kodai Senga did yesterday, obviously, like this is an obvious statement, is just walk hitters. Like you have to have your command. You have to work around the edges of the plate. That's how you're going to beat the Dodgers lineup. Because if you don't, they're going to take advantage of more mistakes than not. This is a great team, like on paper. And just like we knew coming into this season that they were going to be a force to be reckoned with the guys and the type of offseason that they were able to have. So, I have confidence in Sean Manaea, again, with the mechanical tweak of, giving them a little bit of a different delivery. Let's not forget that the Dodgers also haven't seen Sean Manaea, after he tweaked his mechanics, right? They have not seen him. This is going to be something new for them. So I'm sure they've been watching a lot of film. They've been studying up on the sort of awkwardness of his motion now to mimic Chris Sale. And maybe that plays into Sean Manaea's favor. Again, you have to be around the plate, but you can't leave stuff over the heart of the plate. And I think that as soon as Kodai Senga, he did himself no favors last night because it was uncompetitive pitch, uncompetitive pitch, right? After time. And then when he finally did locate it in the zone, they took advantage, right? And it was sort of just an easy recipe for them. If you make pitches competitive, even if you throw them for balls and just have it anywhere near the strike zone, enough for them to think about swinging, I promise you they will chase. I saw Yu Darvish do that on multiple occasions in that game 5 of the NLDS against guys like Shohei Ohtani, right? In particular, Shohei Ohtani. So, just throw competitive pitches. And I think that's obviously rocket science. But again, we didn't see that yesterday, and it came back to haunt the Mets. Let's not do that again today. Full confidence in Sean Manaea. Get us a win. Not get us a win, because you still need the offense to show up. Obviously, we'll talk about this lineup here in just a second. But put us in a good position to win. And I think that we're going to talk about this right here in terms of it could be a little bit awkward to navigate a bullpen game, right? When the opposing manager and Dave Roberts is going to switch up looks. Just as I called on my show a couple of days ago on the off day, right? Brazier, however you want to say it. I'm not sure exactly how you say his last name, but he's going to be their opener. And I apologize about this sunlight here. I'm going to adjust that in just a second. But again, he's not easy to navigate. He's had success this entire season. So has the entirety of that bullpen. And, where there's a will, there's a way. You're going to have to break through.
Yeah. And that's the key right there, right? Look, don't do anything you did yesterday. That's basically it from the offensive side and the pitching side, right? If you looked at the game against Yu Darvish, right? They did only hit 2 home runs, right? They weren't like smashing the ball all over the place. Yesterday was a beatdown, right? They scored a ton of runs and, they killed us. But they are still a high strikeout team. They will chase. And that's what Sean Manaea has to do, right? There's a ton of lefties in the lineup. And that's what he has to do. And look, the walks are a killer. I don't care, right? It all started with walks in the first inning with Kodai Senga. That's where he got in trouble, right? Because if you look at the at-bats, they were still chasing in those at-bats, right? He just gave a lot of non-competitive pitches, and it was kind of easy for them, and then when they hit the ball was right down the middle, and he was throwing 93, 94. And that's what you got to do. You got to keep them off balance. You got to, stay a little bit higher in the strike zone with that sinker. And with the lefties, you want to have them chase and, flail out a little bit and, have them out in front. So, they don't have no power on that ball and just hopefully hit them on the ground as well. And that's where you got to go against this Dodgers team, right? Just don't let them, hit the ball hard if you possibly can. It's easier said than done. But we've seen Sean Manaea do it. And, everybody was saying, oh, Sean Manaea has bad numbers against the Dodgers. He had bad numbers against the Phillies as well, right? He's a totally different pitcher than he was, 5 months ago, than he was 2 years ago, or even last year for that matter. So the numbers don't matter. And, it really does not matter. It really doesn't, right? Look at Flaherty's postseason numbers in his career. They weren't good. Even his first start wasn't great either in the postseason, but he pitched great against the Mets, right? And you can make a lot of reasons why, because we even talked about it on the postgame. He wasn't very sharp. His fastball was flat. The Mets were looking at it. They weren't swinging at it. And his slider wasn't as sharp as it could have been. Just that the Mets were swinging at balls way outside the zone. And what do you expect to happen if you do that, right? You're going to make a pitcher who is, very good into Koufax, basically. And that's basically what you did yesterday. You gave him an opportunity to get him out of innings when he was in trouble. When he started walking guys, we made base running blunders. We had bad at-bats. So those little opportunities we did have to get back into the ball game, the Mets hurt themselves in that situation. And we didn't really get into that much in the post game because we were just so frustrated about the whole entire team effort. But it was the mental mistakes. And the little mistakes that you made basically cost you, giving you any chance of going back and trying to get back into this ball game, right? That Winker base running error was so stupid. He could have stayed on second base or just keep running and go to third and see if the guy made a perfect throw. But you were down by 6 at that point. So, your run meant nothing. So, you got to limit the mistakes as well, right? That's what they need to do. Limit the mistakes and play good fundamental baseball, and you should be fine. You make a couple of mistakes, the Dodgers will pounce on it, and they're way better than anybody we face, and they don't miss opportunities when you make a mistake. And that's what the Mets have to avoid. You need Manaea to pitch well. Don't walk guys. And the offensive side, just limit the mistakes. Base running and make sure you don't swing outside the zone. Now, you're going to face a lot of different pitches here. So it's hard to, adjust for one pitcher. You have to adjust on the fly. But it's not like they can't do it. They just have to put better at-bats together. Make Dave Roberts make the mistake. Let him use pitchers that, let him use 2 pitches in an inning. Let him use 3 pitchers in an inning. That gets to their bullpen. That gets to the guys that he does not want to use as early as possible. So make them work. Put better swings on the ball. Pay attention and stop guessing at the plate. That frustrated me more than anything yesterday. They were guessing at everything. There shouldn't be a 2-0 count where you're looking for a slider. If you're looking for a slider, then what are you doing? Like a 2-0 pitch, you should be sitting dead red middle in. If anything else is there, don't swing. You're in the driver's seat there, and you kept on giving him, strikes that he didn't deserve. And that's why the offense looked really bad yesterday, because they were guessing on almost every pitch. And you shouldn't be doing that, especially when your count is in the favor. So the team lost. Just throw it out the window and just play smarter. I think that's all they got to do is play smart. They played a very stupid game yesterday. And that was the first game I seen this postseason where they played not using their heads. And that's why they got embarrassed yesterday. And that's got to change for game 2.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Before we get into any other things here in this pregame, as always, right? Make sure to hit those thumbs up buttons on both of our streams on both channels. This is being streamed to my channel and Rob's channel. We got you all covered with the post-game coverage tonight as well, just like yesterday. And we'll be here. We'll talk about it, win or loss, because that's what we do. Flaherty was absolutely nasty yesterday, right? The knuckle curve and everything else that he was throwing just was a perfect combination to stifle the Mets lineup. I'm curious to see how Dave Roberts approaches this game from the bullpen perspective, because if I'm not mistaken, their opener in San Diego is the same guy that's going today. He's opening up, but he only went 1 1/3 innings pitched. So I'm curious if he goes out there and if, by some imagination, he does well against the Mets and breezes by the first inning. I'm curious to see if Dave Roberts will stick with him or he'll just execute a game plan that he has prior to the game and just get the next guy in there. I'm curious how Dave Roberts is going to approach that. But again, smarter at bats. What have we seen from this lineup that you just said when they do have their slumps and their lapses is that they seem like they are guessing on certain counts. They are guessing predominantly off speed. And then when they get the fastball, they look like fools because they're not ready to swing. That has been the common denominator of what I've seen. We saw it against the Brewers in their starter, right? A couple of their starters. And we saw it against Zach Wheeler a handful of times in the NLDS. When this team is sitting fastball and then they adjust off speed, naturally, anybody in this league, anybody that's played baseball can tell you are going to have a lot better of an at-bat just by default, right? It's a lot easier to adjust off speed than try to swing or to try to catch your bat and speed up your bat to adjust to the fastball, vice versa. So that's what I'm looking out of the Mets, from the Mets. And it's very obvious, right, when they do it. And we're able to pick that up instantly. And I saw a lot of that going down at the plate yesterday for the Mets. So again, same exact lineup. I was curious whether Mendoza was going to switch anything up. Winker with the base running blunder, he gets back in there. Again, I don't mind the decision at all. Like, it's worked for you before. It didn't work for you last night. But again, you got to trust your gut and you got to go with what's been working. And I know that some people are trying to still push this narrative of let's go and throw Jeff McNeil out there because these guys weren't hitting yesterday, or let's go throw Jeff McNeil out there because Jesse Winker made a base running blunder. That's not how the game works. You don't make decisions just based off of that. Now, am I surprised to see a guy like Winker in there, maybe over JD Martinez? Maybe. But again, you knew that they had, right? And they have a plethora of right-handed pitching. They don't really have many lefties. I think minus Anthony Banda now that he is going to be the lone lefty, I believe, now that Vezias is injured and off the roster. So again, you're going to see the lefty and Jesse Winker early and often in this series. And that's exactly what I'm expecting. Maybe if he takes an 0 for tonight, maybe he, sees the bench in game 3. I don't know, but to act shocked that Mendoza threw the same lineup out there, I'm not, certainly. And I don't think it's a poor choice at all. I really don't.
No, me neither. And you know what this shows the team? That he has faith in them. Like, all right, yesterday sucked. Go out there and reset. Right? That's the whole mindset right there. I think even when the Mets are down 6-0, you heard Mendoza in their little dugout interview during the game, right? He seemed confident this team was going to come back. Now it didn't happen, and a lot of things, led to that. But this is the lineup that he put today, the same one as yesterday. Was saying, guys, I believe in you guys. It was a shitty performance yesterday. You know what? And could we be honest about that? They were only the one team in the postseason that hasn't got embarrassed yet in the postseason. And yesterday was one of them, right? If you looked around baseball, there was a game where the team looked not good at all. It looked like they don't even deserve to be in the playoffs. And that's been around the postseason so far. The Mets finally had one. It sucks that it had to be game 1 in the NLCS, but it's not a death sentence. And Mendoza's trusting their guys, and I'm fine with it. And listen, a game like today, when you know there's going to be multiple arms, and obviously mostly right-handers, except for one Banda, who's a lefty, doesn't matter who's starting today, because if it's not working out early, you can always change the lineup around and throw Martinez in there. Throw McNeil in there if you want to. Like, he's done it before, Mendoza, where he made that pinch hit decision in the 5th inning because he didn't like the way one at bat, a couple at bats happened from one of these guys. And if Winker doesn't look good at the plate, guess who's coming in the ball game? It's going to be JD Martinez, or it's going to be Jeff McNeil. So, and I said it yesterday, where is Jeff McNeil going to pinch it? I know it was late in the game and it wasn't much going on, but he pinched it for Tyrone Taylor, right? So that's what he did. So you got to expect to look for that again. And these guys are going to get at-bats. I guarantee you Jeff McNeil and or probably both of them are going to be a pinch hit candidate today some point in the game. I think they will be, because Mendoza said he's going to utilize them, and definitely Jeff McNeil. So I'm okay with the lineup. I like the fact that he's doing telling his team, hey, reset, go about it, and do your job. Right? Because if he started to change after game 1, and let's be honest, it was an embarrassing game 1. If he starts to change, it looks like Mendoza's panicking a little bit.
Agreed.
This is a guy that never panicked down in the series against the Brewers after that game 2 loss, where he could have very drastically changed things. He did not. Right? Yeah, he changed the lineup a little bit. He didn't make drastic moves. I think if you would have thrown Jeff McNeil and JD Martinez, or even one of them, and taking one of the guys out, like, he could easily took out Winker and be like, listen, that base running mistake, kind of cost us possibly runs, right? But he didn't do that. So he
could have taken out Taylor too. Could have taken out Tyrone Taylor. I've seen a lot of Mets fans today on my timeline say that they don't want to see Tyrone Taylor starting today, and which is, again, a little bit of an overreaction in my mind, but that's what people are saying.
Like, who got us here, right? So same guys you're seeing right now. The majority of them got us there. Each one of them did something to get us to where we are right now. You can't throw them to the wolves now, right? You're not going to trust your team now after they won 2 series in a row against 2 divisional winners. No, you're going to continue to trust these guys and go out there. And you do have your ace tonight. So, if Mendoza panicked, that would be the first time I would say in this postseason where I would be like, you know what? Maybe the pressure is getting to him a little bit. It's getting a little deeper in the postseason. Now he's starting to panic after game 1. He's not panicking. And you know what that does also? It stops the team from panicking and thinking about that a little bit as well. When your manager is confident and your manager is calm, your team's going to be confident and calm, right? Panic mode always trickles down to the team as well when your manager makes rational decisions. Or I'm crazy with decisions and decisions that might not make no sense. But he didn't do that. And that gives me confidence that the team sees that as well, right? The manager has done a great job this year. So, nothing worked yesterday, and Mendoza knows that. The team knows that. But how about just giving him a little bit of credit that they've bounced back after these losses. Now, just because they bounce back and they play well today doesn't mean they're going to win. But I want to see better baseball. I want to see better fundamentals. I don't want to see stupid base runner mistakes that could have cost you a big inning. You can't walk guys, right? Fundamental baseball, Chris.
Yeah, and again, like right when we said with the Phillies, especially after, game 2 where we dropped that heartbreaker, it's like if you go out there and if you play competent baseball for the most part and you lose to a great team, right? We can live with that. We will live with that and we will assess it as such. But when you go out there and you just look lost, you look like you didn't even know that you had a game, that night, that's something that I think both myself and you, and I don't want to speak for you, but again, I think both of us with the discussion that we had yesterday just simply can't accept. And that's what frustrates us the most. So, and again, I think that I agree with you, trusting in the manager, which is why I was so adamant about my stance on the post game last night about Kodai Senga. I said it going into the game, and I stood by that statement in the post game because, again, you can't, in my eyes, if you don't trust the manager enough to make that sort of decision, then, what are we doing here? But I digress. Again, yesterday is yesterday. It will continue to be yesterday. Today is today. There's a ball game, as our good friend Hector from Washington Heights always says, right? If there's a game to be played, there's a game to be won. And I think that is absolutely spot on. He tweets that out like every morning, I'm pretty sure. So, and I always make sure to like it or retweet it or whatever, because I think it's a great point. It's absolutely true. And that's how we have to approach it. Even keel, obviously, we're not going to forget about last night. We're not going to go against that recency bias that we told you all was happening in the NLDS, because that would just be contradictory of us. We're going to have it in the back of our heads. I'm sure the Mets do. But again, you have to learn from it. You have a great opportunity to do something that you did, in the Phillies series, albeit that was a little bit of a shorter series, admittedly, right? You have an opportunity to go back to New York with the series tied 1-1 with 3 games left to play in New York before you have to come back to LA. Right?
Yep.
Hopefully you don't have to come back to LA. I know that's like a perfect world scenario, but again, baby steps, the long series. Hopefully the Mets make it even longer. Let's do it. And I must say though, this 2-3-2 garbage, I don't like it, man. The way that the MLB has these 7 games set up, I much prefer 2-2-1-1-1. That's the better format in my mind. I digress though. I had to mention that. I'm not a fan.
You talked about that yesterday as well, and it's true. It's like, it actually really does benefit the underdog team, the team that doesn't have the home field advantage in the series, because if the home team loses one of the 2 games, home field advantage right away goes to the second best team in that series, who doesn't have the home field advantage. So yeah, it's a little weird. I used to like that, 1-1-1 at the end, 5, 6, and 7. I thought that gives an advantage to the better record team, and it also makes it harder for both teams basically to, with the travel in between and all that, to make it not as easy, because there's no travel after game 5, right? You're there in LA 6 and 7 if there is a 6 and 7, but the Mets also have to get there, right? So they have to do their job as well. This is by no means, not putting any blame on this New York Mets team. They deserve all the blame in the world. But you know what? We did talk about this, even though we didn't think that it could be an issue, but it ended up being. Was the 3 days off got this offense a little bit cold? Because you saw it later in the ball game, right? They started to put better at bats together, even though they didn't score. They put better at bats together. I do wonder that, and I don't think this has anything to do with the pitching, because I think the pitching just didn't do their job. They walked too many people. Besides Senga, everybody else did a decent job. Even David Peterson. If you really look at the innings that he thrown, he gave up a couple of runs, but you seen in between. And after it was like 6-0 later in the ball game, and then it was 9-0. Game was over. But you just I don't know. It was just a weird way of thinking of this game. This just didn't feel right at all, to be quite honest with you, right? I'm a hell of a lot more excited today than I was yesterday, and I'm not sure why. Maybe the 3 days off kind of like, turned me down a little bit as well, and I can only imagine what it did to the players as well, So I don't know. Maybe I don't want to speak for anybody, but I didn't feel excited about yesterday. I don't know. I even said this to him on the pregame, and I even talked about it, to other people that I was around. Right? I didn't feel excited yesterday, and I'm not sure why. Like I don't know. I didn't have a good feeling about yesterday at all, and it wasn't just Senga. It was just more of the fact that I don't know. Maybe it was the off days that kind of like got me a little relaxed. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't want to speak for you, Chris. But how do you feel about those 2 days?
Yeah, I mean, we had to just, put some off-day content out there. It's a blessing and a curse when you don't have to sweat out a game 5 in the NLDS. But for me, I mean, I was definitely excited, but in the back of my mind, I still knew that I had to watch Daniel Jones go out there and play in a Sunday night game. So that took a lot of patience for me to watch the Mets do what they did, and then also watch Daniel Jones attempt to throw a football on Sunday Night Football against the Bengals. So, all jokes aside, you know what? Maybe it is because they did have 3 off days, right? Because they took the series on Wednesday. So Thursday was an off day, Friday, and then Saturday before playing the night game yesterday. Maybe the matinee, right, forced them to, sort of forget about it early. Hopefully they got a good night's rest and are ready to go for this matinee, 4:00 start. I kind of like it. Not going to lie. Switch some things up. Maybe it helps them out. I don't know. Maybe I'm just reaching on to grasping for straws here in terms of trying to make myself feel better about last night. But no, I mean, again, the formula is simple, but again, it's not, because you're playing such a great team, and we have to give credit where credit's due to the Dodgers. Again, they're just a hell of a team. Like, we're not going to sit here and try to BS you all. Like, we know that. So you can only control what you can control, and everything else aside, you know what? If you execute a pitch beautifully and a guy like Freddie Freeman beats you, he's probably, in my mind, the best first baseman in the league, right? And we've seen it for many, many years, even going back to him being an Atlanta Brave. If he beats you off of a good pitch that you executed well, you got to live with that. That's just pure talent at that point. But you have to get there and you have to execute. And I think that's what you're trying to say in terms of how the Mets faltered. They did it to themselves yesterday because they didn't execute. Had they executed and still lost, again, we would be talking about a completely different tone, and we'd be speaking with a different tone in the postgame. We want to see these guys play competent baseball the way that they have been all September long, and really all season long, from basically the beginning of June or middle of June onward. That's what we want to see. So, again, do what you got to do, regroup, and hopefully we see a better product today. Now, I'm curious, again, right, how Dave Roberts utilizes his bullpen, if he's going to stick with their opener, Brazier, for a while if he does well, or he's going to pull him for a guy because he still has, again, Michael Kopech, who's just a flamethrower coming out of that bullpen. He has a plethora of different guys, and he has that luxury because guess what? The Mets only were able to get to 2 of their bullpen guys yesterday. One was Daniel Hudson, and the other guy was the guy who replaced Vezzi on the roster. And that was just kind of a throwaway inning for Dave Roberts. He's like, this guy's not going to see any meaningful baseball in this series, so let's just get, out of here and throw that low leverage guy. No disrespect to him, but I don't think he's going to be in any high leverage innings in this series, being that late add-on. But how do you manage the bullpen if you're Carlos Mendoza? You know what I mean? You saw David Peterson, which we knew was going to happen because that was the formula in Kodai Senga's start in Philly in game 1 of the NLDS. You saw a plethora of guys out of that bullpen, right? And so I'm curious in terms of how they go about that. Hopefully Manaea can give this bullpen some length. You're going to see Stanek, you're going to see Edwin Diaz if the game is close. Yeah. So I'm curious, say Manaea goes 5 and you need 2 innings to get to a guy like Ryan Stanek. Like, what do you do if you're Carlos Mendoza?
Yeah. I mean, that's the key, right? We know about the Dodger bullpen. They're deadly, right? But you know what? They're also, they did get touched up in this series as well. Just because of the last 2 games, everybody was only talking about the last 2 games as well, right? Or prior to yesterday's game. They're damn good though, right? You can't let it get away from you. But again, it's still not an easy way to go about a ball game, regardless of how good your bullpen is. Because all you need is one guy who doesn't have it tonight, and you score runs on it, and then all of a sudden, Dave Roberts, who is known to make the stupid move, now you got to use different guys than your plan probably wanted to when you're going into the ball game. So that's always a problem. And again, we've seen the Dodgers for years especially with Dave Roberts, make tremendous amount of managerial mistakes. And I see a couple of Dodger fans in here talking about Manaea's ERA. Again, guys, last year doesn't matter, right? He's a totally different pitcher than what he was even in April when the Dodgers faced us, right? Totally different. And he only gave up 2 runs in that start, right? Look at his pitching and the way he pitched since June, right? He's a totally different pitcher. I mean, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball since that point when he changed his delivery. He's a different pitcher. And that's by no means saying that the Dodgers won't hit him, because they very well could, right? They are damn good. But he is a totally different pitcher. Like the ERA against the Phillies was just as bad, and he dominated the Phillies. So I don't care about season ERAs, because that really doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Did you care about Jack Flaherty having a bad postseason ERA in his career? No. And he didn't pitch great his first time out in the NLDS, but he pitched great yesterday, right? We go crazy about these numbers during the season, last time out. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. All that matters is executing today, and that goes for both teams, right? The Mets didn't execute yesterday. The Mets made mistakes, and the Dodgers capitalized on those mistakes. That's it. That is basically what happened yesterday. The Mets did nothing right, and the Dodgers did basically everything right. That's why it was 9-0, right? If it was somewhat even on the mistake scale, it might have been a closer game. But when one team makes all the mistakes and one team doesn't make any mistakes, well, guess what? You're going to get a game like yesterday, 9-0. That was it. That was the game right there. The Dodgers deserve all the credit in the world because they took advantage of every stupid mistake the Mets made. You walk guys, you're going to get in trouble. You're going to pay, especially against a Dodger team. So that's what we've been talking about this whole pregame. Limit the walks and stop making the stupid mistakes. And especially at the plate, Chris, as I know we're definitely going to bring up again. They got to stop guessing. There's no reason to guess. You should be looking for a pitch and then adjusting on the fly. Why? I don't understand baseball 101. You see this around baseball. It's not just the Mets, but obviously we care about the Mets. So, to think that a 2-0 pitch, and it still kills me. I almost threw my remote at the screen at the TV yesterday, because why on the 2-0 pitch when Jack Flaherty couldn't throw strikes in that one inning, he had a little bit of an issue. You're swinging at a 2-0 slider. That just shows you that you weren't dicking up at the plate there. You should have been looking middle in for a fastball. And if he threw a good slider and it was called a strike, so what? You spin on it. You tip your cap. But it's got to be better fundamentals. You got to limit the mistakes, and you got to have better at bats.
And again, Dodgers fans are saying, I think we got a guarantee here in the chat from JP in your chat saying that Manaea won't even sniff the 5th inning today. We'll see. Again, like, the familiarity is fine, right? He was a Padre, he was a Giant last season. We get it, but you haven't seen Sean Manaea after his mechanical tweak. And if you haven't heard about it, go look up the MLB Network segment. Like, they do a whole segment on that. You can educate yourself. I mean, again, like, he was a night and day different pitcher post mechanical tweak in terms of emulating Chris Sale than he was to begin the season. And also, before he even made that mechanical adjustment, he went out there and threw over 5 innings pitch of 2 earned run baseball on April 19th against the Dodgers. So I get it. Like, if you're a Dodger fan, you have to be confident, right? After last night, you have to be confident. We're not saying that, but making these guarantees, we'll see. We'll see on the postgame show. I guess you guys can hold us accountable on the postgame show if it actually comes to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, should Dodger fans feel confident? I mean, they are one of the teams that also choked in the playoffs many, many years in a row. And, your bullshit 2020 World Series doesn't mean nothing, right? It doesn't mean nothing to me in 2024. It really doesn't, right? Because I've seen the same Dodger team choke in the playoffs, the same way the Padres have choked in the playoffs for the last couple of seasons, right? This is by no means saying that the Dodgers can't win, but stop acting like you won a series. You're sounding like Philly fans. Like you are. You really, really are. If the game won, be careful what you wish for. Because there will be a lot of Dodger fans, just like there was a lot of Philly fans in the NLDS chats. As soon as they lost and as soon as they started losing and it wasn't looking good for them, they were nowhere to be found. Right? It's easy. We're easy pickings, win or lose, right? We're here regardless. So we're going to get that nonsense, right? We're going to get it. And by no means I'm saying Dodger fans shouldn't feel confident, but it's starting to feel like cocky confident than, just, confidence in your team as like a respectable confidence. It's starting to be cocky confidence. And look, if that's the way you roll, that's fine. But remember, keep it 100 when you don't do well either. That's the way I feel.
We just hope to see the same people in the chat should the Mets win. Should the Mets win, we hope to see the same people in the chat. That's all we want to see.
The only Philly fan that was Greg, who's still in the chat today as a Phillies fan. He came back for the loss. Where was his other boys? They were gone, right? It's typical. It's very typical. And I've had a problem with all these fans for years on my channel. I said the same thing. Don't lose and hide away. It's easy for you guys to hide in the chat. You could be watching, but not typing, right? You could be just gone completely from the chat when your team's not doing well. And that's okay. Like, if you'll be here, I have more respect for you than when you're here when you win. Because at the moment, you sound like a troll. And that's not a disrespectful statement. I'm just saying that a lot of you guys weren't here yesterday before the series even started, right? And listen, you beat your division rival just like we did, right? That's always fun, right? But the series is not over, and it seems like you guys think it is.
Yeah, I haven't really seen. I think CR honestly is right, to be honest with you, because the guys that we have here that are Dodgers fans in mostly your chat, not really my chat, but I guess there's one floating around over there. I don't even think that they're even the worst of trolls. Like, you guys aren't even really trolling at this point. Like, we know that we haven't even seen the beginning of it yet, especially if the Mets do inevitably, drop this series, which we are hoping they go out there today and are backing our statements as we make them right now. So, you know what? I'm going to keep it 100 with you guys. I don't mind Dodger fans. I don't mind fans of opposing teams. And again, you know what? Even if you do have cocky confidence because the Dodgers are a great club and they just handed it to the Mets last night, good for you. Like, we get it. I respect that at the very minimum. But, I just hope that, the same people here, making statements about, Manaea not making it to the fifth inning and all that good stuff, right? Let's see. He makes it to the fifth inning. Maybe even the Mets pull out a W today. I don't know. We'll see what happens in the postgame. We'll break it down. But again, we want to see these same people. You know what? The Dodgers fans that we have right now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. You guys could be a cool bunch, right? I don't know just yet, but you guys could be cool. But yeah, a lot of Philly fans last series, they showed up in our chat, especially after they took game 2. Guess what? Like you just said, beside Greg, we didn't see any of them afterward. None of them.
Yeah, and we also got to remember, people saying that the Dodgers big in the chat, the Dodger fans saying, yeah, the biggest strength is the bullpen of the Dodgers. But you know who also said that? The Brewers and the Phillies. They also had top bullpens, just as the Dodgers did. And the Dodgers bullpen was outstanding in the second half. They were excellent. They were absolutely excellent. But the Phillies and the Brewers, look at their rankings as well. They were just as good as the Dodgers this season. And they were supposed to be their best bet in the postseason, right? It was a little bit of the Phillies lineup, but it was definitely the bullpen, because all we heard was the bullpen of the Phillies when that series started. The same thing with the Brewers. The Brewers had a better bullpen than the starting staff, right? That's what we heard. The Mets have destroyed bullpens in this postseason. By no means am I saying that they can do this against the Dodgers, but the Mets have been doing that in the postseason. And until they get shut down, there's no reason why I can't say that I won't be confident in them doing so.
34 straight zeros is, we do respect the JP. Absolutely, 100%. We are not discrediting that at all.
We talked about that. Yeah, we talked about that.
We did.
That's awesome. That is awesome. But it also takes one pitcher to not have it and somebody to get hit. And then, you know what? The plan changes for Dave Roberts. And when the pitchers don't realize when they're coming in because the plan changes because somebody gets hit, that's all. Look, it takes one pitcher to let the floodgates open. It happens all the time in the playoffs. And I'm by no means that I'm saying it can start today, because it might not. The Mets could look bad today as well. But you also got to respect the fact that the Mets have hit probably the best bullpens in the National League, if not Major League Baseball, the past 2 series. Regardless if you think the Dodgers are better than the Phillies and the Brewers, you might think so, and record says they are. But we also face the best bullpens in the National League these last 2 series. So until the Mets don't hit your bullpen, and it very well much could be today, I'm not going to say that they can't. So, and again, JP, you just said it. Dave Roberts is a bum, right? The players have to not lose because of their manager. And it's been every year Dave Roberts has made stupid mistakes that has cost the Dodgers. And Ohtani or not, the manager could still cost you games. We've seen it in baseball all the time. And the Dodgers are well known. Remember Don Mattingly? Same thing. They've picked those managers. So we'll see. Again, all hands on deck in this game, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, it's a must win. I mean, it's a must win. I think that I'm going to label it as, it's not a must win in terms of obviously you're not going to go home after today, but you're going to go home feeling really defeated if you're down 2-0 in the series and you couldn't swipe a game on the road. And I think for my final statement, right, the statement that I just made in terms of being here, if the Mets lose or if the Mets win, you got to still be here, right? If you're going to come in here and you know, be all go Dodgers and tell us that again, right? I think everybody's kept it respectful, which is great. We love to see that. But again, right, that same statement doesn't apply to just opposing teams' fans. That same statement applies to Mets fans that are automatically writing this team off just because of what happened yesterday, right? You see here Oliver in the chat. I guess, you know, Oliver had an experience of a Met fan telling him that he's an idiot because, you know, that he thinks that, you know, the Mets can beat the Dodgers, right? It's like, it's your own fan base too, that regardless of win or lose, you know that we're here and we show up after tough losses. We show up after the Mets get spanked. We show up, period. Are we happy about it? No, but we show up because we love this team. So again, it goes for everybody. I just don't see, as a Met fan, if you call yourself a Met fan, seeing what the Mets have done this season, you know, how you don't go into a series or how you don't believe in a team to bounce back after a brutal performance the night before. So I digress. Again, I'm preaching to the choir. I know it. I mean, Mets fans are going to be Mets fans. There's always going to be the negative Mets fan out there, which, you know what? I can't really fault them at the end of the day too, because also they've seen their fair share of just painful moments. Absolutely. Agreed. But at the end of the day, I don't think this Mets team right now is unlike probably any team that we've seen before. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie to you. They have the character and the makeup and the talent. You just got to execute better. Yesterday, they didn't execute. Got to be different today. We'll see you all for the post game. That's really it for me.
Yeah. And listen, I'm going to ask the Dodger fans that are in the chat. What if your bullpen doesn't come through today and the Mets win and they hit them? How confident are you going to be going into at least game 3, 4, and 5 at Citi Field where your bullpen actually gets hit? Because again, it takes one run to have the floodgates open again, and that scoreless inning streak is done. How would they bounce back when their bullpen, which is their strongest, basically I wouldn't say the strongest part of their team because their lineup is very dangerous, but it's probably your most talented and most impressive in this postseason right now. What if you do get hit? And what if you do lose and your bullpen gives up runs? Now it's a whole different ballgame when now the bullpen you trusted in the Padres series, now all of a sudden you don't trust after game 2 if they do get hit. Now, the Mets still have to do it, and the Dodgers still have to pitch. But right now, the favor is in the Dodgers' favor, obviously, right? They were able to go to there was another easy decision for Dave Roberts today by going to a bullpen game today. Because if the Mets would have won yesterday, I don't think he would be doing a bullpen game today, to be quite honest with you. So he got the luxury of having an easy decision about going to a bullpen game because they won game 1. The Mets got to limit the mistakes, play smart baseball, and we need Manaea to show up today like he has. And I'm confident the Mets will play a really good game. Now, we don't do predictions in here anymore. We don't do that. But guys, Met fans, be confident in your team. They've proven it game after game in this postseason that they've bounced back after these losses. And even if they lose today, the series is not over. It would be a hell of a lot harder. But I do feel very confident this team's going to show up today. And we're going to see it in about an hour from now. And that's my final thoughts. Again, what is that? Hashtag beat LA. Hashtag change the narrative, Chris. That's what they got to do today.
Change that narrative for damn sure, Rob. I agree with you 100%.
Yep. That's basically it, man. So remember, guys, we'll all be here later, regardless of win or lose.
Hey, we got some promises that some people will be here later if the Dodgers end up losing. So we'll hold you to it. No, I appreciate it. It was a good show. Obviously, there's not really much we can say after something that, transpires the way that it did last night, but we appreciate everyone being here. Thank you all for the support, both if you're a Mets fan or not, right? From the Dodgers perspective, we appreciate you all. We love the banter too. Like, we love the banter. Yeah. We're here for the banter, and it's all fun and games at this point. Hopefully those real trolls don't find their way to our channels, because I'd love nothing more than to not deal with them. But you know what? We welcome all of the banter, as long as it's respectful. Just keep it respectful. We appreciate you all, though. Again, hopefully, bounce back performance by the Mets. Got confidence in Manaea. The bats need to stop guessing, get to their bullpen early and often. And I agree, Rob said it the best, right? Again, make Dave Roberts make that decision, that tough decision, whether he should trust his gut and stick with the guy or take the guy out. Because as his track record shows, as you stated many times, right? And even Dodger fans could probably tell, their fan base and us as well, right? They know the best, that he's not really great at making those tough decisions, and he's proven that. So make him do it. Let's go Mets. Catch you all in the post game. We'll be live.
Absolutely. Let's go Mets, guys. We'll see you in the post game and see if we're talking about the Mets win. See you later, guys.
In the dead of night, full of echo. Concrete jungle, dreams bust to grow. Mets in the air, chase glory, no fear. Broken backs, but hearts steer clear. OMG, the chaos, what a scene. Streets buzzing like a machine. Grimace from the shadows, chills on my spine. Past haunts, the future shine. Comebacks in the night, keep dreams alive. Fighting tooth and nail just to survive. Queens, hear the roar, from laughter to blood in every scar. Living legends made on this ground. From silence we scream, make a sound. Rising high, falling low, repeat again. Cycles of the game, addicted to the pen. Graffiti tales spray on the wall. Met saga, forever stand tall. Rivals smear, but we push on through. Every heartbeat bleeds, orange and blue. Grimace